What's up, FTFers? You asked for it, you ask and you shall receive the project rifle build video. All right, so on the last video, you guys, I did kind of like how to build a project rifle like this. I showed my plan, which I have right here, and this is the follow-up video to that because y'all asked for it. And today I've got my oldest with me, Austin. What are you, like 42 now?
Unfortunately, 30.
30 years old. He is former 10th Mountain, and he likes to shoot competition as well. We've both shot U.S. arms together. He's a really good shot. And I thought it would be good to have him on the video today because he's really passionate about building rifles as well. And this is his latest build. And so I wanted to show basically two different ways that you could build a rifle because we're not telling you what to do. We're just trying to show you a way that you could do it. And if you're a pro and you're watching this video, then understand we are trying to bring people into the community. And that means I'm going to ask you to please keep it respectful in the comment section. I don't want them to see a giant war happening in the comment section. The goal here is to help as many people out as we possibly can. So I would ask that you be respectful. The next thing is a disclaimer. Okay, we cannot show you how to actually build one of these. We can't show you the function of the rifle or how to use it or anything like that. And that's because we have to keep this pure. We don't have any sponsors for the channel, and that's done intentionally because we don't have any affiliation with any of the products on these builds, period. And that means that we can show you exactly what we purchased and we can keep it honest. And in order to do that, we have to follow the rules of YouTube. As a matter of fact, we actually got a strike the other day for showing an airsoft training rifle on the channel.
Disgusting.
Just shaking my head. I really don't know what else to say about that. Unfortunately, we had to take both of those videos down because of that. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Okay, so this is the rifle that I showed the other day. The base for this rifle was a PSA, a Palmetto State Armory rifle. And you can go on the website. Currently, I just looked it up. It's $499.99. Now, what does that come with? Well, you get the basic rifle. You get a Magpul furniture set. You get a 16-inch barrel, 1-in-7 twist. You get a mid-length gas system. And it also has the enhanced polished trigger, which is an upgrade, if you will. And it comes with one mag. So, and the imbus sights as well. So your backup sights for the rifle. So basically it's a complete rifle straight out of the box. All you got to do is install the sights, go sight it in, and you've got a weapon that actually functions. You got to pull the trigger the other day. What did you think?
It's a trigger.
It's not horrible.
It does its job.
It does its job, but it is one step up, I would say.
Absolutely.
It's not real creaky.
This is typical mil spec on mine, and it's as you would expect a typical mil spec trigger to be. That one's slightly more polished because it is.
So, we're not talking competition rifle stuff or anything, and that's a upgrade that most people do anyway, is doing it. And you have plans to do an upgrade on your trigger, right?
Yep, so I'm going to go Geisley 3-gun, the flat face trigger.
Right on. Yep, so that's just the way that the gun came. Now, that's only $500. But it only jumps up from there.
Yep.
Right? And so part of the plan for this video is to show you how much money you could actually spend on this without even realizing that you're going to spend the money. Because I think a lot of people, what they do is they say, I've got a $1,200 gun, or no, I'm sorry. They say I have a $750 gun,
yep,
and it has everything that it needs on it, but they're not including all the little bitty things that you have to buy,
yep,
once you buy a gun. Because once you buy a gun, you obviously you can't keep it stock.
It's a big list.
You got to go and you got to spend the money, right? And that's why you need to have a plan. And so I kind of want to go over the plan. You got your plan?
Yep.
All right. So I'm old school and he's new school. So this will be a good one right here. All right. So let's talk about the very first upgrades to this. What would you say the most important upgrade is immediately to a stock rifle?
When it comes to stock rifles, barrels are the heart of the build. You want accuracy comes from the rifle or from the barrel. So you're really going to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to general purpose rifles in the barrel.
And he just hit something kind of big there, general purpose. Now, this is a first build. This is not...
No, this is
not
probably
a first build.
my 10th.
Right. And this isn't my first build either, and I want to say this is not my primary weapon either. The whole idea behind this build was I wanted something that I could literally put on the shelf or in the rack, and then it didn't matter if it was a man, woman, child, a righty, or a lefty. I could hand this gun to them.
Anyone's picking this up and is going to be able to use it. You
Right.
put the dot on where you want to shoot it, and that's where it's going to go.
Yep, so that's what I decided to do was I left it stock. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why did you leave the barrel on there? Okay, well, first of all, I think a lot of people have probably seen Garand Thumb's video where he takes one of these rifles and he burns it out.
Yep.
Right. Now, he was shooting full auto.
Yep.
He had a can on the end of it and he was mag dumping it.
Goes fast.
Right. So his first failure was at 6,000 rounds and it was an extractor spring.
Yep.
Or I think it was 5,000 rounds.
Yep.
The extractor spring went bad in it. But that's just routine maintenance. And that thing was undergoing a lot of stress to begin with. And then I think at 6,000 rounds is when they started to lose their groups.
Yep.
And so they called it done on the barrel.
Blown out the barrel.
Now, if you didn't go that route, I'm saying that you could probably take this barrel out to 8,000, no problem.
Well, yeah, if you weren't trying to blow it out.
Right.
It'll last 8 to 10,000 and still be reliable.
And even at 10,000, I don't care what rifle you have, you're probably going to have to
need to
replace
change
the
the
barrel,
barrel.
right?
If you want to keep it a usable rifle.
And besides, we're talking about a budget build here
Yeah.
as well. Okay, so, you know, more than likely you're not going to have enough money to go buy the ammo to get 10,000 rounds in it immediately
That's
anyway.
a lot. And
right?
5.56, that's $6,000.
That's a lot of money right there. So I just chose to keep the weapon stock. I didn't do anything to the internals. I didn't change out extractor springs. I didn't change buffer springs. I didn't put a trigger in it. I kept the bolt carrier group that it came with. And this is more than fine for somebody to just start out with.
100%.
And you could, I mean, you could actually run the weapon with they're not iron sights, they're backup sights, they're plastic.
They're technically irons.
Which is not what I wanted to, but I had a really hard time when I was doing my budget on paper because I'm really big on iron sights and I'm really big on night sights.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was one area on this rifle that I had to compromise on because that's $400
Yeah.
right there, just for a good set of irons and night sights that is not even your primary optic on the rifle. So that is one way that you could save money. Now let me talk about other ways that you can save money as well. So when I got the rifle as it was, it came with Magpul furniture. It had a Magpul buttstock and it had a Magpul handguard, which I immediately took off and I sold to a friend of mine. Because that would have been fine, right? But that just wasn't what I wanted, right? Now, instead of me going out and spending a ton of money on a new furniture set, I looked around and I tried to find stuff that was used, right? So I found a used STR stock and they retail for around 85 bucks, I want to say. Yeah, around 85 bucks for a brand new one. And I only paid $50 for this stock. And it is perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this stock at all. I mean, it works. And I really like the cheek weld.
Can't beat the
on
cheek
these.
welds on those.
And I think there's a lot to be said about being comfortable. Also, with the buttstock, you get this rubberized pad. And then I also have the ability to store stuff inside of the stock as well. His actually is pretty cool. Which model is this?
The ACS.
The ACS. Show them that right there.
So it's got a little extra storage. It's a little more featured. It's also got the storage back here. This is where I keep my 3 volts. They stay in my stock for other stuff that I might need.
All right, and I do the same thing. This has the exact same system on it. I just don't have this little door right here, which is actually pretty handy. The thing is, I wanted this, right? But this was on sale.
Yeah, so that's why I got this one. It was also on sale.
On sale.
Yep. So Cherokee had it on sale. I guess they couldn't sell it because of the color, and that's why it's mismatched.
I love that color.
Yeah, I mean it works. Everything's mismatched because I got it on sale. So this is like a $100 stock. Got it for $50.
For $50, right?
Yeah.
So there's one way that you can save the money. So I sold the furniture set that was on this. I sold it for 75 bucks, handguard and the buttstock, and this was only $50. Now here's where people are going to be like, yeah, but how much was that rail?
Yeah,
the handguard itself,
so
right?
My reel was a good chunk of change.
Expensive. This is going to be expensive no matter what you do.
Yep.
This is actually a Troy, and what I want to show you is I bought this one blemished, and let me see if I can find the actual blemish. There it is, right there. So if you look right here on the rifle, I hope y'all can see that, and it's in focus. There's a little dimple that's right there. Now this rail, just to show you how expensive they are, this is a $250 to a $300 rail, depending on where you buy it. But I only paid $150 for the rail.
It's a deal.
That is a steal right there. The only thing is I had to compromise on it because it wasn't a full length rail, but I couldn't pass up the job. Y'all can see how far his rail extends out on the barrel. Mine didn't extend out that far, but I just couldn't pass that up.
No.
Right, and that's something that you have to know right off the bat. Like, are you willing to compromise on the build? Because the original budget that I set, I wanted a full length rail.
Yep.
But I found this one, and it's fine. Right, I wish that it was a little bit further out just for consideration as far as me handling the weapon. But once again, this is for anybody, right?
Yep.
Somebody who doesn't have monkey arms like us isn't going to be able to take advantage of a full length rail to begin with.
Yep.
And I still could fit everything onto the rail accessory wise that I wanted to, and it didn't compromise me being able to actually work any of it at the same time. So that's another way that you could save money. Now, you can trade with friends if you're in the community. You can go to gun shows. You can find a lot of really cool stuff at gun shows. It might be a good idea to take somebody with you to one of those shows.
Stay away from the FUDs.
Yeah, you got to have somebody that knows what they're doing, and you got to be able to look this stuff up to see what is the going price for this stuff. And you kind of have to know what you're looking for. And I would suggest that you don't budge too much on that.
Get a list.
Yeah, get a list. Stick to the list.
Build a list.
Yeah, just like you're going to the grocery store. What happens when you're hungry and you go to the grocery store and you don't have a list? You end up with everything except
you don't need.
what you went there to go get. So you got to be kind of careful when you do that. But you can also go online and you can look for blemished products. Now, this rail was blemished, but there's something else on the rifle that was blemished as well, which I consider to be the most important part of a rifle, period. Because if you can't see what you're shooting, hello.
Yep.
So this is a primary arms red dot. And the thing about that is I had to ask myself, what is adequate? Right? What is adequate for the task? And I knew that this was where I was going to save money from the initial build. Because if I went with an LPVO or a low power varial optic, I could go 1.6, I could go 1.8, I could go 1.10, but they're heavy. If you want a good one, you got to spend the money, so they're expensive. And it also changes the way the gun shoots, the more weight you put on a gun. I could have gone ACOG, right? Been around for 20 years.
Still looking at a lot of money.
$1,200 for a Trijicon.
Yep.
You know, that's really expensive. And a lot of people have problems with parallax and eye relief issues with an optic as well. And I'm not so sure that I want someone who's never shot beyond 300 meters anyway to be taking that shot. No. Right? So I chose to go red dot because it's light. It was inexpensive. I know a lot of people go Romeo series from 6 Hour.
Yep.
That's not my favorite. sight. I like
Vortex has a
primary
good red.
arms. Yeah, Vortex has good stuff.
Yep.
And you can get a magnifier
Yep.
for one of these if you choose to. But what I do is I just have a monocular, a distancing monocular, and that's what I use. If you need to identify a target, you know, out there anyway, you have plenty of time to switch from the monocular to actually using the weapon.
Yep.
Right, so that's another way that you can save money, because you can buy a Vortex monocular for $150, $165.
You can get them on PSA with like 5 PMags for about 160 bucks.
There you go. How awesome is that? I mean, you really can't beat that. And that's the thing, is you got to look around for these deals.
Yeah.
Right. This project, so far, I'm at 2 years on this project build.
I'm about the same. I held on to this receiver for quite a while, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it. And then GPR was where I wanted to go with it. So this became my GPR to stay away from my
What is your
builds.
GPR, just for those that don't know?
The general purpose rifles. So.
We're trying to plain speak here,
Right.
for the audience, and I think, you know, especially having our backgrounds, we tend to speak in acronyms all the time, and that was something on the last video where people were like, "Well, what does ACOG mean?
Yeah.
What does LPVO mean?"
Yeah.
You know.
Fair
So we're trying to do that in this video. But yeah, so your Optic is a way that you can save money, and this was a blemish that I got from Optic's Planet.
Yep.
But I can't tell where the blemish is. I've got several of these actually on several weapons, and I just love them. They're shockproof, you know, waterproof. It's got a 50,000 hour life on the battery, 2 MOA on it. It has night vision capability as well.
Yep.
I really don't think you can go wrong with that.
Not for a general purpose.
Not for a general purpose rifle anyway. So that took care of my Optic after I bought the riser. And that's something that I want to talk about a little bit too, because people don't factor the riser into the purchase of the Optic. Now I looked it up. What did I pay for that one? Oh, there it is, $50. So I paid $50 for this riser. Now, you'll have to do a little bit of math. And the reason is because I wanted to be able to co-witness with this. You want to explain co-witness to people that don't know what that means?
Well, co-witness is basically where, say your red dot goes down and you still have your backup irons, your flip-ups, you can still pop up your flip-ups, look through your red dot, and still see the irons, so you're still in the fight even if your red dot goes down.
And I also, it was really important to me to have a lower third co-witness. In other words, I can see the sights in the lower third of the reticle. That way I don't really get any of my field of view obstructed when I'm looking through my actual Optic. So that's something that you might consider as well. For sure, because, you know, short of, like, his will detach from the rail and will go pretty close back to zero for sure.
It's got a QD.
It's got a quick
So I can
detach.
just rip this off if it goes down and just throw it away if I need to, but if I'm in the middle of something and I need to continue, I'm just flipping these up and I'm just going.
Right.
Because time is life.
That's right. Yes, it is. That's a good one right there. Yeah, so we covered the rifle, we covered the furniture set, we covered the sights, because we have a primary and a backup on it now. The next thing that I went for was being able to identify my target. Right, and so that's why I went with a light. Now, a lot of people, this is controversial. A lot of people are like, why on earth would you turn your light on and give away your position?
It's a life or death situation at that point. You need to be able to properly identify what you're shooting at.
Right, you definitely need to. I mean, we talked about that with optics, being able to identify your threat target with the Optic, but also what if you're shooting at night? And something that people don't think about is you actually have the ability to confuse somebody with a light as well.
You strobe it at them.
So this is a Streamlight HLX, I believe. It's the 1,000 lumen light that they put out. Okay, so for $144, it's the ProTac HL 1,000 lumen light. For me, that's the lowest that I'll go on a rifle. I have Streamlights on all of my weapons, my handguns included. I've never had a problem out of them. I like that they don't take specialty batteries, right? Because if you go and buy a Surefire, guess what? You got to buy
3 volts.
Surefire batteries for it. This comes with all the mounting hardware as well to mount this to the rail. It also comes with the pressure pad and everything you need to install it onto the light.
Can't beat that.
For 144 bucks, you're not going to beat that. That's impossible. And lights get expensive.
Yes, they do.
Like major expensive. That's a major expense.
The one I was looking at for this was going to be close to 400 bucks without pressure pads.
Right, without a tail cap and without a pressure pad to it.
Yep.
Which now you're talking $500.
Yep.
You know, to get one of those. Now, a lot of people are going to ask about PECs or lasers.
That's outside of the general purpose build. That's
That
getting
is
into
not going to
specialty
be
range.
in budget.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a specialty rifle at that point. Plus, it could get you killed.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's more for night ops. As a general purpose person, you need a general purpose build, and you need to stay away from really offensive tactics. You need to be more defensive, more of try to get away from the
Strategic
situation.
avoidance.
Yes.
You don't want to run into the gunfight if you don't have to, but you want to be able to engage if you have been engaged.
Right. Unless you're in a team situation with trained professionals,
Don't do it.
you're not an offensive person.
Yeah.
You need to get away from the situation.
Don't be doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something that I just forgot.
What's that?
I forgot to talk about the gas block
Oh, yeah.
on there. That's pretty important. I could have used the gas block that came on the rifle, but I chose not to. And the reason because of that is I wanted to have the ability to put a can on the end of it later. And so that meant that I had to get an adjustable gas block. And I went with an Aero Precision adjustable gas block.
Yep.
That was kind of expensive. I spent $80 on it.
Yep.
I paid
They're not
full price for that one.
So their basic ones are 40. That's what I have. I'm gonna put a can on this one, so I'll change this out. But just their base gas block, 40 bucks.
A base gas block, right? And I could have used the base gas block that came with this one, but I wanted a quality part. Your gas system is so important on one of these.
Very much
I just did not want to play around.
Especially if you're
with that.
going with the can. And another thing when it comes to cans, looking into your charging handle is a big deal. So if you're going suppressed, finding a charging handle with one of these blocks will keep gas from punching you in the face.
Which you'll notice on this one, I do not have.
Yep.
And the reason that I went with this one, this is actually, did they get a good look at that?
Yep.
I went with the Warhammer because it was only $50.
Yeah. So this is the Aero Breacher. It was about 90 bucks.
So you're talking a difference of $40 just for that.
Just for a
alone.
lip.
Just for a lip that comes on it.
And these, I guess, yours has, it
Yes,
works both sides.
it works
so
on
it's
both
handy,
sides.
yeah. So it's
If you look at it.
it's the same thing, just it looks different. You can operate it from both sides. Just this has a lip on it.
Yep, and this one doesn't. But the price was right.
Yep.
And this is enlarged. And if I was wearing gloves, I can still work the controls right or left-handed. And that's why I went with it, because I knew that I could save a little bit money on that part of the weapon
That's also
itself.
a big deal when it comes to choosing
Yeah.
these charging handles, because if you're going to be operating cold weather with gloves, rainy weather with gloves, you don't want those mil specs. Those things are so hard to operate. The charging handle's that big.
Now, if you're left-handed, this is where it gets expensive.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really expensive. So
It's expensive to live life as a lefty.
I'm actually right-handed, but my dominant eye is my left eye, and I've been shooting my rifles and my handguns that way my whole life. Now I can shoot either side. It's just I have to tilt my head a little bit so that my line of sight is right. But I feel more comfortable handling the gun left-handed. Now you can learn with training how to run one of these guns that is set up for a right-hander, and I've done it many times. Anytime I pick up somebody else's rifle that's not set up with ambidextrous controls,
If I threw this at you, you'd still
I
know how
still
to
would
do
be
it.
able to use the weapon, right? But I wanted more of a convenience factor because, you know, this is not my primary weapon. It's going to go to somebody else. And we have 3 people in our family that are left-handed.
Yep.
So I want to be able to hand this to them and then be able to work the rifle after I give them a short lesson. Of course, everybody in our family is trained, right? But what if I have to give it to somebody that isn't right? And we typically use this rifle and other rifles like it in training purposes, for training purposes. And so I really wanted to be able to do that. Now, that's where the money really starts to come into play, because to get a fully ambidextrous gun, that means you're going to have to spend money. And this is really where I guess it gets, you nickel and dime yourself to death.
Yep.
Right? Because I wanted, you know, I don't know if I can mention all the different controls. My safety for sure, I wanted an enlarged safety. I wanted to be able to drop the mag from the left side.
Yep.
This is the thing that people are going to hate. Either they love them or they hate them, and that's the bad lever.
Yep.
Now I'm going to say that's the only thing on the rifle that isn't necessary.
Yeah.
Right? But for me as a left-hander, it makes me a lot faster when it comes to my mag changes.
Yep.
Because I don't have to turn the weapon over and engage it. This paddle right here, I can work it right here. Yep. And I think the biggest problem people have with it, they say there's accidental discharges, like when they're shooting competition.
Snag risk.
It's a snag risk. So, you know, this would be one way that you could save money. I mean, the bad levers aren't really that expensive either. It was 33 bucks.
30 bucks.
I mean, that's not really that big a deal.
Yeah.
I would say training.
Yeah, training's the
It
biggest
all goes
thing.
down to training.
So if you're shooting lefty, really you don't need a bad lever. Keep your hand, trigger hand always ready to go, and then you can just reach over and slap it. Like you train to slap it. Reload, slap.
Training to slap it.
Repetition.
I mean, we're only talking seconds. Like when we were shooting competition, those seconds matter.
Yeah.
Right, when you're shooting competition. So for a general purpose rifle, maybe you don't get a bad lever. That's 33 bucks.
Yeah.
You can use that to buy another mag.
Exactly.
And part of your ammo.
Buy almost 3 mags.
You can buy, yeah. So that's another thing too. So let's talk about mags while we're there, because this is the Gen 3 mag. Now, this is a question I wanted to ask you because I don't know the answer to it. So I had a bunch of Gen 2 mags at the house, and for some reason, I don't know why, after I dump it and I go to put in a Gen 2 mag that is one short, right? So 29 rounds in the mag, and I go to put it in, it won't go in as long as it's in battery, right?
Yeah.
But with a Gen 3 mag, I can take 29 rounds and it'll go in fine.
So it's either a matter of spring tension, or I don't remember what they did with the Gen 3, but they may have added a little bit of buffer
Into
at the bottom.
Yeah, just a little bit of extra headspace probably on it. That was disappointing.
Yeah.
That was very disappointing to me because I already had a bunch of Gen 2 mags. But I have discovered I don't want someone else to do the classic put the mag in and then poof, they drop it immediately when you're shooting. And that is so embarrassing when you're in competition.
Yep. So
Anyway.
that would be something you would really want to explain to someone when you hand them a rifle like this. If you do only have Gen 2 mags, that's what I usually run. Run it dry, let the bolt close, hold open, and then it's going to slam in perfect every time.
Yeah, but that's another training thing, right?
It always goes back to training.
Because you don't want to be the guy who's over here fumbling around and bending over and fumbling around and not being able to get it to go. And yeah, it's super frustrating. So to alleviate that problem, I just went with the Gen 3 mags. They're cheap. I always say
like $4 more than the Gen 2s.
Yeah, what you're talking dollars now. That's not a big deal. And so I went ahead and went with Gen 3 mags for this one. I typically just I'll save up like 250 bucks and I'll buy the next thing on the list, and I usually add a mag to it.
Yep.
You know, and that's how I do it. And now the question of how many mags should you have? I recommend 4 at a minimum to get started.
4 is a good start. Standard loadout 7, 210 rounds. As many as you can possibly get.
Yeah,
Really.
it's all about how much you can actually have.
I
in a
don't
gunfight.
remember how many I have at this point, but it's a lot.
Yeah, you have a ridiculous amount of mags.
Yes, I do.
Right.
I buy them every chance I get because you never know when you're going to need them. You never know I don't know, you might want to go train with 10,000 rounds one day, and you don't want to sit there and
Sit
load
there
up
and be loading
4
them
mags
up, yeah.
every 5 seconds.
That's a pain in the butt. I hear a lot of guys say 21 mags. You'll be totally fine with 21 mags.
Number.
That's a solid number.
That is a solid number. That gives you 7 for 3 people within your.
But let's just say you buy Gen 3 mags. Now you're talking $15 to $20 a mag. You multiply that by 21. That's a lot of change over time. So you're probably not going to figure that into your budget.
That's about 300,
right off the bat.
$320.
Right.
A little over with tax.
And right there, I mean, you could have spent on a really nice optic at that point. You could have had one of these.
$330.
Yeah, you want to tell them what this is?
That's a HS 510C. So it's a 1 MOA dot and I think it's a 64-inch ring. So the good thing about the ring is if you're in close engagements and you need to be really quick and you don't have time to be precise with the dot,
holdover and all that.
You just throw that circle around what you want to shoot and it's going to hit every time.
Depending on what your zero is, what zero do you run?
So I run, this is a 25-300. So it's a 300-yard zero.
Explain that to them.
You do it at 25 yards and that makes you shoot dead on at 300. So you'll shoot dead on at 25, dead on at 300. So if you're shooting below 25 yards, you're shooting low. It's going to shoot, so if you're at, I think it's about 7 yards, so typical engagement range with a pistol, you're going to be about 2 inches low. So you got to remember holdovers when you're shooting close, if you are going to zero at this range.
Which is really helpful with the Holosun because the bottom of your ring then becomes your hold on the actual threat target itself. So if I was really close to you, what that means is that the dot itself is not on you. It's right at the top of your head and the bottom of the ring.
The ring's going to be
right
on the
here
chest.
in the T-zone
Wherever I want to put it.
Right, depending on how close you are to the target or whatever. But a lot of guys run a 36 zero.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be within a few inches out to 300. But I think for a red dot, I've always done 25. That's what I've always done. And then I verify at 100 yards past that. And I mean, I'm lucky to hit a silhouette at 300 without a magnifier, you know, but you can do it. You know, it just takes a few shots or whatever.
So 25 is what we did in the Army with CCOs or our red dots. We did 25-yard zeros, and I mean the 300 target, you just hold it at the head and it's hitting every time.
Right
as long as you have proper trigger pull, you know, you got to have the fundamentals of shooting to be a proper shooter. I mean, it all comes down to training. Every time it comes back to training.
And you should start with irons. Like, don't forget to sight in with the irons first before you go with a primary optic on it.
Yeah.
Because this is your life if something goes wrong with this.
Yeah.
Right. And I would highly recommend that you do not buy the Amazon specials when it comes to optics.
They don't zero at all. They never move.
Can you get Holosuns on?
You can get Holosons on Amazon, not primary arms. You can't get that on Amazon, but you can get Holosun on Amazon. So
there you go. So around $350, they can get a really, really good optic.
Yeah.
And you could save the money, like I was talking about, by selling stuff off of the rifle, by trading, by going to gun shows, buying blims, etc. All the things that we have mentioned, the money that can be saved on this, you could have a really nice optic, and I consider that to be the most important part of the rifle. So, well, I guess besides the bolt carrier group and the barrel.
Well, I mean, there's
itself, but
they have their place.
Maybe the most important accessory to the gun.
Well, it is considered an accessory because you could just use irons for sure. But if you want to be a little more precise, you're going to want to throw a red dot or an ACOG, anything like that. So, I mean, really just building your rifle over time. Like, it doesn't have to be done today.
No, and this one's still not done. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up because I ordered a 3-prong Surefire for this that will accept the can that I want. But I ordered that from Optics Planet, and it's taking forever.
I feel that.
To get here, right?
I've been waiting on a plate carrier for weeks.
That is so irritating. It's like you spent the money. So it's already factored into my budget. Yeah. I've already spent the money. I'm just waiting on the part to get here. Now, some of the newbies, the greenhorns, they're going to ask, well, why is it so important you have this A2 flash hider on here. This is a standard bird cage,
Yep.
mil spec flash hider, or muzzle device.
You just keep your trace low.
They shoot out a fireball.
Yeah.
Every time I've ever seen one of these tested, they say they're supposed to mitigate some of it, which they do some of it,
Yeah.
right? But there is no comparison between a 3 or a 4 prong to the bird cage.
Yeah.
And the question is, why would you want that? You know, we talked about giving away your position. If you are shooting at night, you want to mitigate that as much as possible. And I think for newbies, they get a little bit confused on the muzzle devices and the term silencer too.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Probably.
There's no such thing as a silencer.
No,
It's a suppressor.
it is a suppressor. And the reason that you want a suppressor is, number one, to mitigate the flash, but also the sound.
Yep.
It makes somebody, it's hard for them to identify where you are when you have a can on the end of your muzzle. And that's the main reason why we run those.
Yep.
I think a lot of people think, well, I could use it for home protection, right? Because now I can run through the hallway and I can shoot people and it's silenced like in the movies.
No.
Right?
Still gonna hurt your ears.
That is not how that works. You will blow out an eardrum. Ask me how I know.
Especially if you're inside. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're inside, it's compounded
And
completely.
then definitely don't run one of these.
No, and I would say this is just my personal opinion. I would not, don't get me wrong, I would use this for home defense, but this is not my home defense weapon.
This is a very last resort home defense weapon.
Yeah, you can use any gun
Yes.
for home defense, but there's a lot to know about that.
Yeah.
And if you're a newbie, I would highly encourage you to go get training.
Yep.
Specifically, you need to take like a general purpose rifle class, like a rifle 1, a rifle 2, and then you need to take specialized classes.
Yep. As basic as it can get and move your way up from there.
Yeah, but you need somebody, find somebody that you know, someone that you trust, and you'd be amazed. I take people out all the time, what they can learn in just one session. Like if you go out with somebody that actually knows what they're doing, there's just so much that you can learn in one session, right? And you don't even have to spend the money. A lot of times people will just give me ammo
Yep.
and say thanks, and I'll take all the ammo I can get regardless. So there's one option, or you can save up, the $750, $800 for an
Take a
actual
full
pistol
tactical
or
course.
rifle class or something like that. But you kind of got to figure that into the budget as well, because I think a lot of people don't factor in things like ear pro,
Yep.
the cleaning supplies for the gun, maybe some kind of bag to carry the rifle in,
Yep.
the tooling that you need to maintain
There's
the
a lot
gun.
more than just the gun when it comes to the gun.
Yeah, and if you don't have all that stuff, you still have to take it to a gunsmith, unless you know somebody, and you're gonna have to pay them
$100 an hour,
to do whatever, right?
typically.
So it's a journey, right? The more that you binge watch, your favorite YouTubers or gun tubers, the more that you read, you're going to learn stuff along the way. And I think it's hard for them to realize that's how much they're going to spend later. And I'm going to show you one of the ways that you can spend a ton of money real fast, just by having a sling.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize how expensive slings can get. Now, I'm a Blue Force guy. I love Blue Force slings. They're my favorite, but they're definitely not in the budget.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, what I got on this one was a mag pull. And don't get me wrong, it's fine. It's adequate for the task at hand. I have the ability to run single or double point on it. But here's where the money comes in. All right, so typically one of these mag pull slings is like $50, and it's a really good sling. It's not my favorite, but it works. It's heavy duty. I know it'll last for a long time. But here's where the money comes in. It's all these little bitty attachments. So let's just say in general, this is a QD sling mount right here, and this is the QD itself, the quick detach, right? Think of every single one of these accessories as $30.
Yep.
That's fair, right? And not all of them are created equal, right? Some of them just free spin. Some of them are really loud as well. And some of them are kind of hard to operate as well. Mine, when I put it in, it only turns a quarter of a turn. And that's what I prefer because I don't want my sling getting all wrapped up and everything on mine. But because I wanted to keep this ambidextrous, you'll notice that I have them on both sides of the rifle. And on top of that, I had to have this mount. Let me see if I can show it.
Yep, the butt plate.
The butt plate, and it's ambidextrous. So you'll notice there's two where I can take this on and off fast. That way he shoots right-handed. If I hand him this gun, he knows what to do immediately. But for a noob, they may not know because they have all these like locks and stuff on them. This one has a lock right there. So you can see that it works now. If I push this, it remains locked onto the weapon. But every single one of these attachments costs about 30 bucks. By the time you buy them all, especially if you're left-handed or you want to set up the rifle like I did,
you're into $100.
there, you know, that's expensive, right? 30, 60, $90. And usually butt plates, end plates, they're not really that expensive. This one was $12.
Yeah.
But if I had gotten, you know, another QD mount like this one, that would have been another 30 and another 30.
Yeah.
You're talking about $120 plus the cost of the sling, which is 50 bucks.
Yep.
Now we're talking over $200 just for you to have a sling, which at the beginning, a lot of military guys, what they'll do is they don't want the noise, right? So what they do is they take paracord and they wrap it through the M locks on their handrails or their handguards. And then they'll just attach it to the end of the sling right here. And then it's quiet, it's lightweight. You do have to worry about the twist on that.
It's like a dead cat for slings.
Yeah. So that is one way that you could save $200 on it. Now, this one was actually used, and I lucked out because it came with this attachment on the end of it. So I knew that I was going to have to get the butt plate attachment for it, but I didn't. That's not that big a deal. I paid 12 bucks for it.
Yeah.
It's a mil spec one. I polished it up and don't have to worry about snags on it or anything like that. But unfortunately, it came with a free swiveling QD mount, and I did not want free spinning.
Yep.
That was a problem for me. So I had to spend the money there, and that's just a decision that you have to make. Now, what have you done on yours?
Mine's just single, so it's came with the stock. Another way to save money. All QD. It's a single point sling. Really, it's a little high. I want to switch it back to here. My competition gun has a QD in the butt plate. I like it a little lower to keep the center of gravity.
Center of gravity a little higher too.
I just like it better right there. But that, for a general purpose rifle, you throw this on somebody that you need to have it. They're gonna have it, and they're not gonna lose it.
Now that was really important to me because there's kind of like this battle between single points and double points.
Yeah.
I think if you're a newbie and you've never done this before, you need a 2-point sling. Every time, right? Like single points are typically for operators, SEALs, whatever. They're going into an environment where it's actually a good thing for them to have that. But you're not a SEAL.
Yeah.
You're not Delta. You're not, you know, all of these special forces guys. I would highly recommend that you get a dual point sling, and I would highly recommend that you get one that is adjustable. We call them Vickers style slings in the industry. This gives you the ability to adjust the sling super fast when it's on the rifle. And if I want to do something in my workspace, if I want to work on the rifle, I can just fling this all the way out, and now my rifle is secured if I'm climbing a ladder or I'm working on a patient or whatever the case may be.
That's another thing. 2-point, when you're doing something like that, having to climb or work on somebody, you throw this thing behind you. You can't. You can do that with a single point, but it's going to flap around on your butt.
It's like flinging all over the place.
It'll flap around all over your butt, and it's really annoying and distracting, and it's not really worth it.
Now I need to look and see if I missed something along the way. I don't think that I did, actually. That's everything on the rifle. The only thing that is not here, and just full, you know, disclosure or whatever, the rifle in its current state, including the 3-prong flash hider, I'm at $1,700 right now for the whole entire rifle.
So this one, I'm at 1843.
1843, and has everything that you see here. Oh, we did not talk about these. You want to explain what these are for?
So foregrips, I mean, you don't need them. A general purpose shooting a general gun for general reasons, you don't really need them. Really, I mean, it's for the guys like me and him who've been shooting forever and want the most precision out of our shot. We're gonna grab this thing how we need to, and it's gonna stabilize our gun in the front end as we need it to be stabilized.
Now, one little quick tip for you guys. The further out that your hand goes, think of this as a lever, right? The further in that you come, the more shock resistance you actually have in the weapon when you're shooting. So when you first start, a lot of people think, I can stabilize the rifle a lot better the further out my grip goes on this. But what you don't realize is that if you're not used to breathing control, and you're shooting on the move, now your shots are all over the place when you're doing this. So a lot of people shoot on the mag like this. I don't personally shoot like that because my left hand is right here at the ejection port.
It also causes an issue if you're shooting on the mag. You can cause a misfeed. It can mess that up.
I think the ARs are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare, but you don't want to give it the opportunity to fail if you can avoid it.
It's about building good habits because there are certain weapons out there that you cannot do that with.
Yeah.
Period. Cannot rest on the mag.
Yeah. And also, being this close to the back end, it does give you a little more recoil impulse in the front. So that's something else you have to be wary of.
It's a compromise either way. There's pros and cons to every
So really you
approach.
want your foregrip or your grip, really, even if you don't have a foregrip, to be as far out as you can, but you want enough bend in your elbow that you can support the gun itself without overextending yourself so much that it's causing strain and could cause an issue with accuracy later on.
Now that's probably going to be something the newbies don't know about too, because they see this and they say, "Well, I want to." No, that's not what that's for. The only time that you would do that is if you were breaching something. You need to push with the weapon so that you have control over it. This is actually the way that I run mine.
That's exactly how you're supposed
just
to run
like
it.
that. I have a lot more control. I still get a C-clamp grip on there, and I can still work the momentary switch on my light as well.
Video games and movies have destroyed people when it comes to
I don't
thinking.
shoot as well like that when we're in competition.
I've
tried just to see.
It's not.
It's mechanical advantage.
Yeah, it gives you, like, it really comes down to twist, I guess, at that point. So if you're moving around, your wrist has the ability to twist, whereas up here, you're locked in. The only way this is moving is side to side, not left and right.
So I'm looking at the weapon and I'm trying to think, like, what else could we talk about? I think maybe you want to explain, what is this? Right? What is this
forward assist
device on there?
So you get to shooting enough, this gun's going to get nice and gummed up, and you go to lock this back, or it locks back because of an empty mag, and then you go to run it forward, and that bolt doesn't run all the way forward because you've built up so much carbon in that star chamber.
It's pretty common.
Slap this a few times, and there's notches inside the bolt carrier group
to help put it into battery.
To help put it into battery.
Right. So I would highly recommend, because something my grandfather taught me is you got to watch out for platforms. When Stoner designed this, it did not have a forward assist on it. They added that later in the game. Yep. So I would highly recommend that you get one of these.
Yeah, you can get them naked. You can get them without a forward assist. I mean, it's good for a sporting gun if you're going to shoot on the weekends or whatever. You don't need this for a little target gun, but if this is going to be your general purpose rifle for general purpose protection, you're going to want all the features that it can have. That's going to matter when seconds matter.
Right. It's all about the tiny details. The devil's in the details, they say, right? It's all these little bitty things, these little choices that we're talking about that actually cost you money. And I think a lot of times, like I said earlier in the video, people don't tell you those things. No. Like when they say, well, I got my furniture set, they're just talking about the handrail and this. Maybe they don't even include the pistol grip.
Some people don't even think about the pistol grip. They'll end up getting these the standard mil-spec pistol grips, which they work, don't get me wrong.
But this is a beaver tail.
Yeah, a beaver-tailed and rubberized pistol grip, like it's just that little comfort factor that, you know, it's $20.
And the angle.
Yeah, the angle's
as
also
well.
really important.
That's really important. Oh, and I forgot to mention the price of this. This one was $25. It's a 6-hour. He has a
20
BCM.
bucks. $20 for BCM.
I mean, if you want to, you're not spending a ton of change on that.
Yeah.
And if you go to a rifle class with somebody who knows what they're doing, it's probably a good idea
Yeah.
to have one of these, because you're going to learn right away.
Plus,
right?
you'll get in their good graces.
Right.
They'll be able to show you something that they like to teach.
To teach, right. So,
Which everyone can teach the regular C-grip that you give to a handguard if you're just shooting normally.
right.
But there's something about using a foregrip the way you're supposed to use a foregrip that not only increases accuracy, it gives you that cool
Efficiency.
factor that everybody's looking for, and it
You
is
fit
very
in.
efficient. Yeah, you fit it.
To the cool kid lunch table.
Yeah,
right?
you fit in with the LARP bros.
The LARP. That's pretty good. Okay, so where do we go from here? That's the question, right? So I've built this rifle. I've met my goal. I'm definitely under the $2,000 that I set at the very beginning. But that was me being honest, right? That was including the mags. That was including all these little bitty attachment points, all the controls, the ambidextrous stuff, having lights, having backup sights, having all the stuff that you see on GunTube these days, and still having enough mags and ammo to actually train with the rifle. Now the thing is, I still have a little bit of change left over, and that's to include the paint supplies
Yeah.
for the rifle as well. Because, you know, a lot of people say, well, I want my gun to match, right? So I want all, you know, Coyote or FDE or whatever,
Gray, FD,
you know.
black.
I don't care. I don't care at all whatsoever, because I'm going to paint the thing
Yeah.
after I get done with the rifle build anyway.
Yep. My general guns do not matter.
And another thing, too, that people have to take into consideration is, unless you're taking it to a gunsmith, right? Once you have a rifle built, you're going to have to take the whole thing back apart again, and there's going to be certain things that have to be Loctited.
Yeah.
I see it happen a lot in rifle classes where light systems, sights, stuff like that will come off of the gun.
Basic things like this. Castle nuts, got to stake the castle
Got
nuts.
to be staked in. And I haven't done all of that with this gun yet, because I haven't finished building the gun, right? So once I finally get, and another thing too, every single part that you add to the gun makes it shoot differently.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people, they say, well, oh, that means I got to change the buffer spring.
No.
I've got to change all of this stuff in the weapon. Okay, for me personally, I don't know, you can give your opinion on it, but when I have a rifle like this, okay, once I get done with the gun and I go out to the range, and I zero this in, and I get a general feel for it, that's when all of a sudden I start thinking about my secondary stuff, like the backup stuff, like having another extractor spring or an extractor, a bolt carrier group, the buffer spring, just parts that I want to replace over time, that I feel like if you're building an SHTF rifle, you should have on site. That would also be a gas block and a gas tube. That's probably a whole nother video. I think that should be a whole nother
Really a
video.
barrel. You should have an extra. You should have extra parts to rebuild this entire gun. Typically, a receiver set, a lower receiver, you're never going to burn that out. You run an upper receiver enough, you might wear out the slide points where the BCG comes across it. A buffer tube, you'll probably never run out. A barrel, you'll definitely run out. Handguard, you'll never run out. So really just your wear parts.
Which brings up another very valid point. So even though this is my secondary rifle, I still have some of the same parts, right? So I'm building redundancy into my kit, if you will. If something were to go wrong with this rifle, guess what? I've got another rifle on standby that I can change the parts out, and I can fix whatever my primary rifle is. So this is kind of like my spare kit right here. That's something that I think warrants being talked about. But I'll be honest with you, I did not figure that into the actual gun build itself.
Well, that is extra.
Yeah. I mean,
Really?
it's just like maintenance on a car.
Yeah.
Right? Got to fix your rotors. You got to change an
Right.
alternator or a battery.
Yeah.
Change fluids out.
It's the same thing.
Whatever. It's the same thing. Is there anything that we have forgotten? Because I get going and I just start talking and I forget about stuff.
I don't believe so.
We talked about the rifle itself.
Yep.
We talked about the furniture. We talked about the controls. We talked about the optics. We talked about the accessories. We talked about being able to identify targets, to be able to confuse targets. We talked about little add-ons, how to save money in the process.
We could go a little more into barrels.
You want to talk about barrels?
Yeah, we
No,
go a
let's
little
do it.
more into barrels.
I love talking about barrels anyway. It's addictive,
It is.
actually. Just so you know, hi, my name's JJ, and I'm an addict. So, yeah, let's talk about barrels real quick.
So I like cold hammer forged on all of my builds. A cold hammer forged barrel, they're more durable.
Durable.
They're
is
more
the word, yeah.
durable. They're cut more accurately when it comes to the rifling.
Smaller grouping,
Yep.
longer distances.
Yep. So really, like spending the extra, like this barrel was, what was this barrel?
Yeah, let's see what the
It was a
prices
cold hammer
were.
forged barrel. It was $290. So I mean, you can get a 5.56 16-inch barrel for $110 all day, every day. Chrome line, just basic 5.56 barrel.
Like one of these.
Like that. But this is going to last you longer. It's generally more accurate as long as you break it in properly and don't blow it out.
You don't pull a grand thumb.
Yeah. Don't throw a suppressor on it.
Don't watch what Micah
And,
and Mike are doing.
Full auto it for
with
3 hours
suppressor on
straight.
it.
Yep.
Right. That's
So-
not for the average person.
Yeah. So that's why I like cold hammer forged barrels. I like to splurge on the things that's gonna make me more accurate when I need to be. So like you can save money everywhere. Like you can save money on the optic, like he did, on the receiver set. My receiver set was about $300. That's another thing. Buying a receiver set, buy it as a set. Like matched receiver sets, so you don't have all this slop.
Wobbling around.
Because a lot of them will have a lot of wobble in them. And that's something you want to avoid.
You hear about that in movies all the time.
So, I mean...
the first time I heard that was in SWAT.
Right.
And it was like, oh, you took the rattle out of my receiver.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could save money in that if the slop isn't that big a deal, which for general purpose, it's something you're going to hand off, not that big a deal. Really, you want to make the gun durable and accurate.
Something that's going to go the distance.
Right.
Right.
Right. So,
And once
outside
again,
of yourself.
primary, secondary, right here
Yeah.
is what we're talking about with this build. Now you could literally go out for $750 and you could be shooting.
Oh, yeah.
You could even have.
You could get that $500
a
rifle with it comes with sights and everything. Go
Yep.
spend another $150 on ammo and mags, and you're training.
and you're in the fight.
You're training.
Right, you're training.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, nobody.
Right?
Nobody likes to be seen with a poverty pony, which
Yeah.
I understand because poverty ponies, to an extent, are less accurate. They're generally not going to make you a. It's not necessarily they're not going to make you a better shooter, because anything training-wise, like you could go get a rubber gun and it'll make you a better shooter just sitting here practicing up downs.
Dry firing. and
Dry fire, like
movement.
yeah, you just dry fire on a basic gun. That'll make you a better shooter. Really, it's people watch too much YouTube.
That's exactly what it is.
They see grand
We're trying to
thumb.
save you, is what it is.
They watch all these big YouTubers with these $10,000 rifles, and they're like, "I need that to be a good shooter," and that's just.
And we're not
objectively
exaggerating
false.
either. When he says 10,000, I quoted 9,000 because there was a rifle
Yeah.
recently that was on T-Rex Arms that he was showing one of the guys that works there with him. And that gun was 9,000, and I think they did a comparison between a cheaper build and then this precision build, and I mean Lucas outshot him.
Yeah.
Anyway, with a cheap gun, right? And that's because he
it's
trains.
all about your it's all about your competence as a shooter,
Right.
than it is anything. Obviously, a good shooter with a good gun is going to do really well. A bad shooter with a good gun, it's useless.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, and that's really. Where we want to go with this is train, train, train. I've said it 5 bazillion times. Like, you can have the best gun in the world, but that doesn't, it's an insurance policy.
Yep.
Is what it is. And if you don't know how to cash in on that policy, what's the point, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go get a $500 gun and shoot.
Yep, that's
Like,
right.
if-
Just
if
get out
that's-
there.
If that's all you can do, just go shoot.
Do it.
That's the best thing.
Get
you
in
can
the
do.
fight.
That is the best.
Get off
thing
the
you
X and get in the fight.
can- Exactly.
That's right. So if you're hunting smack digging the video, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thanks for being in the video with me.
Absolutely.
I love you. We'll catch you on the next one. Keep fueling those fires.